The Ukrainian ambassador to Germany has commemorated Ukrainians killed in labour camps during the Second World War. He also visited the grave of the radical Ukrainian nationalist leader, Stepan Bandera. Now, Bandera is a controversial figure in Ukraine's history. During the Second World War, he collaborated with the Nazis in his fight against the Soviets. His militia was accused of slaughtering tens of thousands of Poles and Jews. However, his movement for an independent Ukraine was adopted by far-right protesters during the uprising on Maidan Square last year. Bandera, along with other prominent Ukrainian nationalists, are now honoured as fighters for Ukrainian statehood. That's a direct quote, and that's according to a new law passed by the Ukrainian parliament. But Warsaw and Prague have stepped in, demanding explanations from Kiev. The Polish president says the law hinders dialogue between the two states. A retired Polish general who previously supported Kiev explains why he's changed his stance.
After the visit of the Polish president, the Ukrainian parliament passed a resolution which, in my mind, glorifies those who were committing murders against Poles in Kresy, in Ukraine. Until the Polish government takes a firm position towards that resolution, there's no talk of supporting Ukraine. It's not possible to build a bright future on the dark spots of history. Obviously, I remember that what happened to my family. So I can't agree with the fact that Ukraine glorifies those who had been killing Poles in Ukraine. My mother's family originates from Wolan. My grandfather died at war in 1939. My grandmother and her daughters had been evacuated from Wolan and Dubno during the carnage, where the Polish minority had been defending themselves from Ukrainian attacks. I believe that this situation demands explanations.
Meanwhile, the chief of the European Commission has made it clear that Ukraine's potential membership of the EU is not on Brussels' agenda right now. The comment was made at an EU-Ukraine summit. In the Now takes a closer look at what was discussed.
Ukraine's President Poroshenko met EU delegates in Kiev. Best friends forever. Poroshenko still wants EU peacekeepers in East Ukraine, but the EU said no.
Today we can talk only about civilian mission, not military.
Poroshenko says Ukraine will be ready to join the EU in 5 years, but the Europeans say not so fast.
The issue of accepting Ukraine into the EU is not one to rush on. As the French say, each day brings its own problems, and we have enough of those to solve at the moment.
The EU is not even ready to provide Ukraine with a visa-free regime.
It's a good opportunity for Ukrainians to move freely, but the Europeans have doubts because of some uncertainties in and around Ukraine.
Joining me in the Now is Richard Sakwa, professor of Russian and European politics at the University of Kent. He's the author of Frontline Ukraine, Crisis in the Borderlands. Good to see you again, Richard. How much does the EU need Ukraine, and does it need Ukraine as an equal partner?
Well, I mean, what do you mean by need? Certainly, what we've got into a situation over the last few years is instead of shared neighborhood, a competing neighborhood with Russia. Does it need it for markets? Does it need it for goods? No. Does it need it for prestige and status and stability? Yes. And so it's not just any Ukraine it needs one which is stable and at peace. And at the moment, it's far from that.
Plenty more stories coming your way, including ships carrying food to war-torn Yemen are delayed by coalition forces as the humanitarian crisis there worsens. Police in Japan are investigating a possible attack on a US military base near Tokyo. Locals reported hearing explosions in the early hours of Tuesday morning. Police found 2 pipes believed to be used as a launcher and a projectile in a field near the base. There are no reports of injuries or damage to property. Well, the blasts were reported less than an hour after the US and Japan formally announced a revised security agreement in New York, expanding Japan's military power. The countries have issued a joint statement on additional missile defense warships that will be stationed at an American naval base in Japan. The US will also station an advanced nuclear-powered supercarrier there. Washington stresses it's ready to use all options, including its nuclear deterrent, to defend Japan. Washington also reiterated Tokyo's claims over local islands disputed with China. Well, these developments point to a growing militarization in Japan, something many Japanese themselves are strongly opposed to. Now, after the Second World War, Japan constitutionally renounced war forever. However, at the turn of the millennium, the Japanese government's mood started changing. First, it passed a law that would allow self-defense forces to support anti-terror operations. Then, in 2007, the Prime Minister also called for a review of the constitution. Since last year, Tokyo has been trying to pass a new law that would allow Japanese troops to help allies under threat. Well, China's growing presence in the region is cited as one of the reasons for that. Journalist Kon Halinan believes Washington has its own interests in mind, spreading its military influence in the Asia-Pacific.
It's very much a part of this Asia pivot. This attempt to encircle China, which it has largely done, and to build up local allies. It ties the United States very, very closely with what is the most nationalist, the most aggressive Japanese government really since the end of the Second World War. In a sense, Americans' decision of war and peace, those decisions are now being made in Tokyo because we have essentially given Tokyo a blank check in their relations with China, and that's something that, as I say, I think is very worrisome.
Online for you, it's been revealed that energy giant Shell successfully lobbied the European Union to reduce renewable energy targets. Documents have been made public showing that the company played a significant role in reducing the goals set by the bloc at climate change talks last year. You can head to rt.com for the full story. Also there, spying